This episode of Divine Providence, the podcast, is brought to you by Cactus AI, the best essay helper for students.
A frenzy in Friartown.
Nice crossover, quick release.
Oh, baby, and the foul. Woo. Offensive rebound for Watson.
32 seconds, shot clock differential about 14 seconds, 3-point lead.
Run shit like me, top 5 basically. I still play for keeps, ain't no fantasy, hey.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 18 of Divine Providence. I am your host, along with Mr. Mac. As always, we are also joined by Dr. Sergeant Eduardo, or I don't know, he might have removed the doctor from his name. But we're here to talk about the Providence College Friars men's basketball team, which isn't all that fun to talk about right now. You know, it's tough. I mean, we're in the dog days, right? The season's kind of winding down. It hasn't been the season that we wanted, but we still have a job to do, right? As professionals and unbiased basketball journalists, you know, we have to do a job for the people. So, gentlemen, how we feeling tonight?
Just stop the bleeding. Stop the bleeding now. Like you said, we're in the dog days of the season. It's tough to get up for game day. But like you said, we're Big J over here. Big J journalism.
Yeah, you bet. Eduardo, how about you? How you doing, man?
Last night, just cried in my room. Hit up in a ball, curl up under my blanket. I'm just get me to the Big East tournament. Get me to the Big East tournament.
Yeah.
Did you officially drop Doctor from the name as well?
No, I dropped Sergeant.
Oh, that's
Okay.
it. Sarge. Okay. Yes.
I'm still a doctor.
Still a doctor, world renowned. So I think last night, I think a lot of people can agree with this. Last night was one of the least excited games that like I've been for this team in many years. Like I've been way more excited about non-conference games that were going to be blowouts, you know, for the sole fact that like you're at Marquette, a place where we just always die and just absolutely just die. And it's just a disaster season, obviously injuries and just a multitude of other things. And you just kind of knew, you know, what would happen. So there wasn't really much last night to look forward to, like going into the game. Obviously, we still tune in, though. We still tune in. We still, you know, tweet. Like everyone's going to still watch. But it is hard. And it is hard to come on here at, you know, 8:30 at night. Like I'd rather be in my PJs, snuggling my dog, fucking not talking about the PC Friars because they suck. So, yeah. It's all right if I didn't give you much to work with there, but that's just how I feel.
Yeah, no, you're good. I mean, it's a lost season, like you said. I mean, there's really nothing else to do but complain at this point. You know, the last decade or so, we've gotten used to this time of year, like things are starting to ramp up. Like, what's the bubble looking like? Are the Friars in? Fighting for positioning in the Big East tournament. This is unfamiliar territory. Even last year, like a team that fell short, you were waiting until the last second to say, like, all right, the Friars are dead. It feels like it's been a month now where we're just like, you know what? At-large chances are done. Let's just fast forward to the Big East tournament. It's unfamiliar ground for a PC fan.
Definitely. And I mean, this episode, like, obviously, we don't want to make this episode shitting on the team, like, but we also have to be honest and talk about the inconsistencies. I think a lot of it comes down to just, you know, mismanagement of talent. So again, we're not going to dump on the players. Like, they get a lot of shit on Twitter, on social media, on the message boards, on Discord. Like, I definitely don't want to make this like just a, you know, shit on the players fest. But one thing that we've seen on Twitter a lot, especially like with kind of the finish that we're headed toward, is Kim English, right? So I think he's a very polarizing figure, not just in PC or Friartown, right? But I think all across college basketball, I think people either kind of love Kim or hate Kim. And recently there's been, a lot of Kim hate. Where do you guys stand on his, I guess, job security this year? If he kind of deserves a third year, where do you kind of stand on his future with the Friars?
I've been adamant about the fact that I don't think Kim should be fired, at least after this season. I know there's people saying that on Twitter, and they may be saying it in the Discord, followed by a "fuck Led Zeppelin" message.
Yeah,
but no, I think, listen, he's in a shitty situation, and I know we heard about the 13 dudes and like we'll be able to withstand an injury, but like you can only control Bryce Hopkins' ACL so much. And that's just a shitty hand that was dealt. And, whether Bryce is in a Friars uniform next year or not, like, at least judge the guy based on a clean slate. Do I think he's an excellent coach? Do I think he's like the brightest young mind in the game? No, I do not. But I think he's a good enough recruiter. He's been around the game long enough. He's played the game at a high level. I think you just got, like, you can't entirely judge him off of the last, season and a half. Like, I feel like he needs to have some sort of clean slate and just start fresh.
Eduardo, what about you? I mean, I feel like you're more critical sometimes, especially on Twitter, of the team. Where do you stand with Kim?
Well, if you think about it, go back 2 years ago when Knapp was searching for a head coach. He hired Kim. Main reason why he hired Kim was the potential. He was 34 years old, brand new. Rick Barnes, Mike DeHassy, all recommended Kim English as the head coach, and that's why Knapp hired him. Now, fast forward today, he's having a rough year, dealing with a lot of injuries. But then again, it's Providence college basketball. It's I wouldn't say the biggest brand, but it's a big brand. It's a big fan base. There's a lot of fans that care about the program, and they don't like losing. So he's running out of time, and I would give him another year. I know this it's just a rough year in general, but it's a make or break next year, in my opinion, for Kim English.
Do you think that the hire was rushed by Knapp? Because that's been a narrative that we've seen or heard recently.
Comparing it to Syracuse, because I know Syracuse has a very similar situation right now. I know Red Autry's in his second year as well. First year, both head coaches had 20-win seasons. Looked promising. This year, both teams just flat out suck. But the thing about Syracuse is they didn't have a hire search. Knapp did. Knapp had a search, but Syracuse just hired Autry off of Jim Boeheim's word. So I don't think it was rushed. I think it was, and I know Knapp always says he has a list of coaches always in his drawer. I don't know if that's true or not, but I don't think it was rushed.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, so my opinion is I do believe that Kim deserves a third year, and I actually do have some faith left in Kim. And I think that obviously he is a young coach. I think he can definitely recruit okay. Although, we talked about this earlier in the year. We've yet to see an actual Kim English recruit, play well at the college level. But I think that's more just a product of time and timing, so to speak. So I think he could be the right guy for the job. My only issue, I guess, with the process and the hire was that you did take a guy that coached for 2 years in the A-10, 2 years as a head coach in Division I college basketball, and you made him the coach of a team that is, like you said, we're not the biggest brand by any stretch. I would say the best way to describe PC basketball is it's a fishbowl. Like, your people are so invested, and every move you make is so highly scrutinized and just seen from thousands of people because we do have a large fan base that's very, very in touch with what's going on. I do feel like maybe Nat might have put Kim in like a sort of a bad situation. Replacing Cooley, is a tough task. And they chose a really inexperienced coach to do that. Again, still have faith in Kim, but like you said, I mean, I agree. He is running out of time.
What do you guys think? I mean, I can tell you what the fan base's reaction is going to be like, but where would you guys stand if next year goes by and there's, worst case scenario, not playing in March again?
Yeah. I mean, excuse me. There's no scenario in which Kim has a job, in my opinion, at the end of next year, and where he has a job if they don't make the tournament next year. Like, I think it's tournament or bust, and I think that pressure is probably not a good thing, but it's probably the truth. And I mean, if he comes like we're on the bubble, and I don't mean like the bubble like last year, where we're like the 13th, 14th team out. Like, we're like the first team out, second team out. Like, maybe you say, all right, we'll give this guy, one more year to try. But if we're like 500, he's 100% gone.
Yeah, we've talked already today about how he's a young coach and like typically want to give him some time, but like this is a fan base that's not used to a type of season like this. Obviously not the biggest brand, like we said, but this is a program that for the last 10, 15 years is, at least since, the Big East realigned, is used to coming in the top half of the conference. Not, fighting their way out of the basement with DePaul and Seton Hall and Butler. Like that's not good enough for the fan base. And that might be good enough out of DePaul, not to throw strays, but it's not good enough in a program like Providence where you are the pro team. And, it's like I said, Kim English was dealt a shitty hand, but I do think it is tournament or bust next year, regardless of the situation.
Yeah, no, I definitely 100% agree. Tournament or bust. And yeah, I mean, you're not, it's not acceptable at PC to go 2 years or 3 years without making the tournament. But the more important thing is where this program was when, Cooley left. It was in a pretty good situation. And, we haven't really come that close to the NCAA tournament since, and we've only gotten farther from the NCAA tournament. So, it's a different kind of game nowadays. It's the NIL, it's the portal. You got to have a coach that can, bring in talent, but you also have a coach that can assess talent. I think that's the first thing. So, I mean, Kim missed on 3 transfers this year. Jabri, he might have started coming around, right? I think that's maybe hard to say if like Jabri was a full miss, but definitely, missed on Creased and Cardette.
Yeah, I mean, you would like to see Kim English, have a better batting average from the portal perspective, but I think we talked about it either earlier today or yesterday. It's not like Kim was recruiting nobodies. He was going after guys that like other coaches were also actively after. So I don't as bad as this, whether you want to say he went 1 for 4, 1.5 for 4 in the portal. He was out recruiting coaches for guys that were, heavily recruited. Obviously he just happened to get the shit under the stick. Guys didn't work, and that could totally fall on him. Like, he didn't put them in the positions that complemented their games. Totally understand that. But this portal not just bringing guys in, but I think this upcoming portal cycle is going to be the most important in the history of this program.
Definitely. So it seems like we all agree that Kim should get another year. So if you are Kim English, how do you turn around from a disastrous second year to then turn around year 3 and make the NCAA tournament? How do you do that in one off season? What do you guys think?
Well, first off, I was about to mention this. Something has to be changed. Like, it can't be the same thing as this year. Like, bring an assistant offensive guy, a defensive guy, maybe even switch the strength and conditioning coach, like we talked about episodes ago. Just something really needs to be changed, because when I watched that game yesterday against Marquette, the offense was a complete shit show. They barely scored 50 points. I mean, they hit, like 3 prayer threes during the game. They probably realistically should have had 40 points. And I know someone mentioned that Rafferty said their offense was basically just a dribble handoff around the 3 and just a 3-point shot. So it just, something really needs to change. And I think they should really just clean up shop, just make everyone transfer and just bring a whole new team in. Just like, kind of like what DePaul did, but just like more talented guys coming in. Just change the culture of the team.
So clean slate, basically. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
The offense has been super frustrating this year. Like, I think people have mentioned, like, there's not the defensive intensity that we're used to on a Friars team. And, like, I totally agree with that. But the offense is, like, so clearly the last 3 months now. So that's, 75% of the season, 60% of the season, so clearly been god awful. Like, not even like high major caliber offense. The guys look lost, and like Eduardo said, Tuesday night against Marquette, without those prayer threes at the end of the shot clock, at least at one point in the game, Marquette would be up by 40. Like, it's just, something's got to change on at least offense. Like, whether it's a system or you clean house, like, offense looks putrid, and it has for months now.
It definitely has, but it definitely changed for a little bit when they kind of went on like a mini run. And I feel like the offense was trending, and it all started with the at UConn game. And I've talked about this before, but their offense in that game, then after the next few games, was trending toward Wesley Cardette being the first option, Ryan Mila being the second option, and working the dribble drive with that. And then Jaden Pierre, like, the floor was open for Jaden to, because he is a talented scorer, like, not just 3-point wise, but he's shown flashes where he can get to the rim. He has a little floater game. He's a decent finisher at the rim. Like, it was looking like it was going to be, Mila, Cardette, and Pierre as your main offense. Then everyone else was kind of going to, be puzzle pieces around them. And then, like, Cardette and Pierre, like, just quit. Like, I don't understand. Like, they just fell off the face of the earth more than anyone I've ever seen. And Cardette had an injury he was obviously working through. So I'm not, like, saying that he should have played through the injury. But since he's been on the floor after the injury, and even, like, right before it, before they shut him down, he didn't seem like he just wanted to be there. I think we saw that last night too. Like, so again, not to shit on the players, because I don't want to do that all episode, but I'm worried if there's like a little bit of an issue, like a culture issue with this team, because I've never seen that. Like, just 2 older players just like be like, all right, like, I'm just done, like, for the year, I guess.
You make a good point on the culture thing. I told you I wouldn't get started on Wes Cardette, but one thing that stop me once I get to, like, talking for like 45 seconds max. Like, cut me off. But you mentioned culture, and the only thing I can think of at the beginning of the year is from the UMass scrimmage when Kim was yelling about shared purpose, and it was
Yeah.
Wes Cardet's body language, and like the writing was on the wall from the beginning, at least for him. I feel like
Yeah.
lack of maybe he's just like a quieter guy, but like lack of intensity, like just has seemed checked out since the start of the season.
Yeah. So that was good. That wasn't even close to 45 seconds. So
Perfect.
no, I
Perfect.
agree. And that's why I'm not just like trying to single anyone out because like I'm not even necessarily blaming Wes. Like he put up 20 points per game at a low major last year. And sure, like that's much easier to do at Chicago State than it is to do at Providence College. But obviously he was invested, like emotionally. He had to have been. Like to put up 20 points per game, pretty much any level of basketball, like even if it's fucking rec, like you have to care a little bit. Like 20 points per game in a 40-minute game is a lot. Like, and he's playing Division I college basketball. It's not like he's, playing St. Michael's versus St. Philip's CYO. Like this is, D1. So he was obviously invested then. So I guess that's where I'm just confused and a little concerned if maybe, like I said, there's something kind of deeper going on. And if Kim gets fired at the end of this year, then we have our answer. That means that he just kind of lost the players and lost the locker room. And, administration didn't feel like he was the guy to lead the team. If they give him one more year, though, that kind of also gives us our answer as to like, I mean, there's obviously not really an issue. It's kind of just on these guys. Because if there was an issue, like Kim will get fired, or if there is an issue, Kim will get fired at the end of this year. So we'll know.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like a lot of the points that we've talked about throughout the season are kind of all coming up right now, and it's end of the year and we're all just kind of connecting the dots, 2 months too late. But like even we've talked about the lack of transparency. Like we don't know shit that's going on. Not that we necessarily deserve to, but we don't know shit. Like we have no proven history of if this is a culture thing. We have no previous reason to believe it's a player thing, because a lot of these guys that we're talking about that aren't bought in, have only been here for a year or two, or I guess questioning. Like there's a lot of ambiguity on whether it's a culture thing or, you just recruited guys who don't know how to get up for a game. The type of guys you want in a Friars uniform. There's just so many, a lot of gray area, I think. And as a fan, if you're not getting answers to what you want answered, that leaves room to panic and assume worst case scenario and crash out like we see all the time on Twitter. Like it's just the ambiguity causes mayhem.
Definitely. No, I completely agree. And I've seen a lot of people defend that, saying that doesn't, it takes away your competitive advantage if you're too, transparent with your injuries. And I get that. Like if a guy is hurting a little bit and maybe, you want to have a little gamesmanship, right? So to speak, totally fine with that. Maybe make a guy a game time decision every now and then. But if one of your best players has a serious injury and we're going in every game not knowing if they're going to play, I mean, that's a little bit like not necessary. And I think that it would maybe anger more people and do, worse than it does good for the team. You want the fans to be invested. Like there's this disconnect between you have like, the athletic director who their job is to obviously get the fans invested. And then the coach who just thinks like, okay, like it doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. We have our own job to do, which I agree with. But it's also the coach's job to make sure fans stay invested, donate money to the program. And I think Kim can be good with some of those things, but then other things he's not good with. So, I'd like to see more emphasis on a little more transparency with bigger injuries.
I almost wonder if, and let me know what you guys think about this, because obviously there's a lot of people calling for Kim's head or Kim's job. I wonder if the lack of transparency and the keeping your cards close to your chest is a reason for is like a subconscious reason for a lot of the frustration towards Kim, because like there was not one Friar fan 6 months ago who didn't like Kim.
Yeah. Yeah. That's correct. I'm sorry, Eduardo, did you have something to say? I'd love if you jumped in.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think just the expectations were too high when he was talking about like 13 dudes and seeing all these transfers come in. I know when I talked to Donnie Mexico, shout out Donnie Mexico, he was like, yeah, I wasn't expecting to have such great of a season. It felt like during the off season we're going to go undefeated and go win the national championship, and then now we're sitting at 12-16, and everyone's all frustrated, expecting like a great season. So I think just like all the big hype in the off season with all the guys coming in, 13 dudes, it's just a disappointing. I think that's like the big frustration coming out of the fans right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely partly the fans' fault too. I think we hype up guys, and I think that I think on Twitter we like to kind of do that. I think it's partly a bit like, I call us a blue blood all the time on Twitter. That doesn't mean we're a blue blood. If you actually think I'm serious, then you're just a fucking lunatic. I don't know what to tell you, but like I think I agree that there was a lot of hype, around Kim. Bless me. You can leave it. There's a lot of hype around Kim, the transfers, and that is unfair. And do I feel bad about some of that? Sure. Like, partly us kind of driving those expectations high, but like, hey, that's what it is. You want fans that care, and you want fans that, will be rah-rah for the Friars and rah-rah for your program. Like, that's better. And then maybe, some people do get a little upset. And I agree, some people might fly off the handle and whatnot. But ultimately, like, that's just the nature of having a decent fan base or a decent-sized fan base.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have. There's both sides of the coin. If you're going to talk up your roster in the summer and get the fans bought in, and they care, and they're juicing them up, like saying, we're a blue blood, we're winning the national championship. I'm going to throw $10 on Providence plus 70,000 to win the national championship. That's a good problem to have. That's a fan base that cares. They're bought in. At the same token, if they are bought in and their expectations get absolutely just shattered, like in a bad way, just completely fall short, they're going to react a certain way, and it's because they care. I think people have different lines of where to not cross when it comes to the criticism, but like also, like, I don't know. I think everyone has their own opinions on where the line is, but all in all, it's a fan base that cares. So, in good times or bad, you're going to be able to tell that they care.
Definitely, agreed. And I think we have the best fan base in the country. Genuinely, I
agree.
This is a school that has 4,000 undergrads. In the smallest state in the entire country. Like, we have an unbelievable fan base for what this program has been, or at least before Cooley got here. Like, people didn't give a shit at all, and now we're here. And like, if you told me 15 years ago that we'd be calling for a coach's head after year 2 because and after he had a pretty decent year 1 and like a bad year 2, I'd be like, wow, something must have went really right in that time period. And a lot of that had to do with conference realignment, right? You know, you had a coach that was willing to stay. And I think that's really all you need. Like, I don't think you need a mastermind to win at Providence College. I think you just need someone who's committed, who cares, and you just need to play in a conference that isn't going to kill you every night. Like the old Big East was. I mean, it was fun, but Syracuse, Pittsburgh, Louisville, UConn, every other night you're playing a top 10 team. So, not to get off the rails here, but yeah, I think Kim. I want to give Kim another year. That's my official stance, and that's that.
I think, and I might be going off topic here, but you kind of mentioned alignment, and we have complained about the Friars for just about 30 minutes now. This is a topic that's come up recently. What do you guys think about the possible Big East realignment and expansion? Where do you guys
That's a good
stand on
topic.
something like that?
Well, so like I like the idea of being in the same conference as Duke, UNC, being in the best basketball conference in the country again. I think that's appealing. Obviously the SEC is kind of taking that crown away from us. But I do get afraid of being left in the dust. I mean, you're going to like NIL wise, you're going to have a bottom half NIL for sure. And you're going to be in a conference with some giants. So I don't know, 100% how I feel about that. I think the Big East is good. It could be a little bit better, but we've won a lot of national championships recently. So I probably would rather just keep it the way it is, but I'm okay with that, merger, so to speak.
Eduardo, where do you stand? Because I feel like in all likelihood, an ACC Big East merger would move Syracuse back to the Big East.
Well, so as a Providence fan, when I look at it, I would be much more comfortable if like Gavitt was still the commissioner instead of Val Qaeda. So I feel like we would get maybe screwed, probably not, but maybe screwed. But as a Syracuse fan, 100% sign me up.
Yeah, I think there's something so like when I first started watching college basketball, it was like a few years before realignment, and my introduction to college basketball was the greatest conference in the history of the sport. Like that entire conference, top to bottom, was just like a gauntlet. And there's something like I guess maybe not to be proud of, but like something like that's cool as shit. Knowing that like your hometown team is going toe to toe with multiple top 10 teams in the country, like it would be much more different, 20 years later, 15 years later, with a Duke, a UNC. I never saw Miami in the Big East, but there's I don't know, like you said, it would be the best conference in basketball, and obviously the SEC has overtaken that. You could argue the Big 12 had overtaken it a couple years before, but with all the realignment stuff, I also feel like the Big East itself has fallen behind, and I'm all for blowing up the ACC. Send the football schools to the SEC, send the basketball schools to the Big East, send the West Coast schools to the Pac-12. I am all for it as long as it's not some like super mega conference where there's like 22 teams.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that is a slippery slope though for PC. And like, when does it end? And if we let these mega conferences kind of infiltrate the Big East, and like we're right now, we're like kind of like in this sacred bubble, right? And we let UConn infiltrate the bubble, even though they're a football school, non-Catholic public state school, but they're a massive basketball program and they belong in the Big East, right? And I would be okay with like, Syracuse. I might be okay with like Louisville, but once you kind of bring in that wolf again, right? And things hit the fan, like PC we're lucky that the Big East got reformed in the fashion that it did, taking Butler and Xavier from the A10. Our program was for a millisecond on the precipice of just being left in the dust, and we would have been in an oddball conference or the fucking A10. Like, that's a nightmare, So I like what we have now. I don't really want to maybe screw with it, although there will be pros to the other side, but it's a big risk for a school like Providence College. If you're a basketball fan first and a PC fan second, yeah, why not? I'm a PC fan first and a basketball fan second. So the risk of getting left in the dust, to me, just maybe isn't so worth it.
I will say, I think the only Big East team that would want the merger to happen would be UConn, just because of football. But
Correct.
Personally, I don't see it happening because of football. I mean, football is basically king. It makes most schools all their money, so they don't really want to leave that ACC contract deal. But if it runs out, you never know. It might be a merger.
I didn't really consider the football side of things, but that does make sense because my argument earlier was just don't make it a mega conference. I believe FBS rules to be considered like an actual legitimate conference, you need 8 football programs minimum. So because I think the Pac-12 is dealing with something similar right now. So you'd have to take in 7 football programs from the ACC to make it even relevant for football purposes, which would bring the Big East in basketball up to 18 total schools. Now, whether you drop schools or whatever that may be, that's all details. But I would definitely not be interested in an 18-team conference, and I certainly wouldn't be interested in the top of the conference being UNC, UConn, and Duke every year because PC, a program that's competed in for a top 3 or 4 spot in the Big East for the last decade. You can kiss any shot at that realistically goodbye if you're competing with Duke, UConn, and UNC every year. I think this is the first time I'm actually talking it out with anyone. So I have switched sides live on air. I am against it.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I do, like I said, I do think it'd be fun, but it's just a risk for us. And I also, what I don't understand is it's 2025. Why can't there be different conferences for the 2 major sports? Like, these are your 2 big money makers. So if the football teams want to be in one conference, then let them be in one conference. If the basketball teams want to be in another, let them be in another. I bet if you said to, Syracuse, Louisville, Duke, and UNC, hey, you can branch off from these ACC fucking deadbeats and join a basketball conference just for your basketball program, they would sign on 100%. Like, if money's money, if you're going to make more money in a different conference, then why are you relying on other sports for supplemental revenue? I don't know. It's it's just, I think there just should be conferences for each sport, or at least the 2 major sports.
Yeah, I agree. And weirdly enough, Notre Dame just gets a pass just because they're independent in football. But I totally agree with that.
Yeah, that's so stupid. I don't get that. I mean, there's so many ACC teams I just don't want in my conference. I don't want to be in the same conference with fucking Boston College. For one, you're competing in markets with Boston College, and 2, they suck. They're just the worst basketball program in the entire country, based on credibility at school versus how success on the court. I mean, they're fucking atrocious. So, I'm out on it, but I could be convinced.
I would be okay with maybe not like the blue blood basketball. And like I said, there's football business side of things that we're not taking into account. But like the Big East fan in me and PC fan in me would like Louisville or a Pitt or even Notre Dame. Like Notre Dame, I feel like it would actually make it work for basketball. Like if the Big East was looking for a 12th team and the ACC was just like, we're good. Notre Dame would make all the sense in the world because they can stay independent in football.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess there's certain instances where I'd be okay with it, but I know those schools wouldn't sign off on it, knowing that there would be no football, FBS conference.
Yeah. No, I agree. Well said. Well said.
I will say,
Eduardo?
if we do a merger, I would want every blue blood from the ACC, just because we would 100% get more money off a new TV deal. Just having Duke, UNC, Syracuse, all just in one conference, it's just going to help the college itself out. I know it'll be tough games to watch. Maybe we turn a blue blood in 10 years. Who knows? But just having all those big teams in the one conference, I think, would help us out financially and just in general.
Yeah, that's also fair. So we got some voice memos and we got a couple of recordings and whatnot.
Yes, we do. Do we want to go to the voice memos first, or would you like to be held accountable first?
I might be held accountable a couple times actually, but yeah, we can do the screen recording from Donnie Mexico.
Yeah, so shout out to Donnie Mexico. Donnie went back and found a quote from Leb earlier in the season after our New Year's loss to Marquette, and we'll play that right now.
Ringing in 2025. For the first time in almost 6 years, a Golden Eagle.
Honestly, like there's no possible way that road game against Marquette can be any worse than the home game. So pretty good production quality. I'll give them that.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I didn't think it could be. I thought they were kind of gonna go in with the attitude of like, hey, this team fucking kicks our ass, home and away. Let's just have some fun, shoot some threes, and see what happens. And boy, did they get ass fucked. So yeah, I was wrong.
What's that meme? It's like our expectations were low, but holy shit.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, that was pretty much it.
Leb, I'll go down with you because I posted a tweet yesterday saying Friars money line. Season starts today, and just completely. So.
Yeah, I also had a Friars money line tweet. So, yep, that wasn't a fun night for sure.
We also have a couple voice memos from friends of the program. Actually, yeah, I think all these are for Leb. So first one comes from Mr. Fried Fryer himself.
Yo, this is Fried Fryer. Question for Leb. Why did you donate to a bunch of rich kids so they could go on vacation? I'll hang up and listen. Thanks.
You're just getting peppered today.
That's okay. It's a fair question, and I'm glad I was given an opportunity to address it. So that fan club that they have there down in DC, very nasty place, but the Hoya Gray fan club is they're okay kids. They're really okay kids. They're not like typical Georgetown fans. They're active on Twitter. They're pretty funny. I met them at the PC game. I like them, and I'm a supporter of them. And again, I think we want to be clear, right? I've never hated Georgetown. I still don't really hate Georgetown. Obviously, I root for their demise at every turn. That's simply because of Ed Cooley. I mean, if Ed Cooley left tomorrow, like, I don't care about Georgetown. Like, I don't care if they win or lose. Like, hey, good for them. Those kids, they're all nice kids. I hope they're happy. Also, I remember what it was like, being a college kid trying to get to the Big East tournament. And like, yeah, these kids probably are rich, but I mean, they might not, like, their parents might not be giving them money at college. So, like, yeah, I donated like $30. All right. That is what it is. That's it. And they're okay kids. So that's it.
Fair, all fair points. If General Felton Advocate, for example, said, "Lev, can you send me $30? I want to go to the Big East tournament," and you only had $30, are you giving it to Phelps or are you giving it to Hoyer Gray?
Well, I would give it to Phelps. If I only had $30, I would give it to him. You know, I've actually, you know, I've had a few run-ins with him, and you know, I know him personally, so yeah, I would give it to him. That's, you know, that's not a question. But you know, this is more just like a showing of like, hey, like, you know, you guys keep doing your thing. Like I'm a fan of what you guys do. You know, I don't like your basketball team. I despise your basketball coach, but you guys are okay. You know, they're cool. One kid on Hoya Gray, he was tweeting about where, you know, Peter Millar and rainbows today because it was nice out. And I was like thinking like, these kids, like, they're just like PC kids. Like, they're the same fucking kids. I wonder if Kyle Williams knows that they wear rainbows and wear Peter Millar. But you know, they're okay. They're okay kids. So that's that. Not to rate.
Yeah, no, those kids will need a long talk about their wardrobe.
Yeah.
So
it's giving.
They need to get rid of those hard hats. I think that's corny. But other than that,
I wasn't a fan. I wasn't a fan of the hard hats, especially, you know, as a guy who had to get in the trenches, do blue collar for a few years. It's kind of like cultural appropriation, you know, like my culture is not your costume, you know.
Yeah, you shouldn't be allowed to wear Peter Millar and a hard hat in the same day.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
So this second one comes from the one and only friend of the program, Avid Mindsetter.
Hey guys, first off, just want to say, fuck Duxley Peaches. And my question for the pod is, what is your guys' favorite Sopranos episode? Thank you. Go Friars. Fuck you, Captain.
Avid's just letting them fly today. I want to say I made it a point to put this one in because he sent us one earlier in the season while we were recording. And I think he just wanted to get a shot back in at Captain Bruce because he got him earlier in the season.
Yes, I do remember that, yeah.
So I had to throw this one in. But, yeah, Leb, I don't know if you have an answer to the question.
Yeah, I probably do. I like the one. I don't know numbers. Like, so I have a friend who's a diehard Sopranos fan, and he can basically tell you seasons, episodes. He can quote almost the entire show. So I can't do that, but I have seen the show like many, many times. I do like the one where Meadows' friend's dad goes in debt playing poker to Tony, and then they gotta, you know, bust out his sporting goods store. I do like that one. Also like the one where they bug his basement. That's a good one. I would say probably between those two, those are probably my favorites. Not the best, but my favorites. Pine Barrens is overrated. Everyone says Pine Barrens. It's not Pine Barrens. It's a good episode. It's funny, but it's not as good as some of the others.
Eduardo, are you a Sopranos guy?
I don't think I've ever watched a full episode. I've seen clips of it, so I can't really comment on that.
Okay, perfect. Because now I don't feel guilty admitting the same exact thing. So that's good for me. Leb, I think whatever episode you listed off are great, though. I assume they're awesome.
Oh, also real quick, just want to add to this. I was thinking about this one yesterday. The funniest episode, in my opinion, is the one where the Pope, or not the Pope, the priest sleeps at Tony's house, and the next morning Tony finds out, and that's really funny scene. If you look look that up. It's very funny. Anyways,
You could be,
we got anything
you
else?
could just be you could just be making up fake TV scenes, and I would believe you.
Yeah. Well, they're real, but I could be. Yes.
Yeah.
So what else? Anything else or no? We good?
Yeah, I think we did enough complaining about the Friars. Some nice little ease our way back into reality the last
Can
20
I
minutes of the episode.
bring up one quick question? So I was
No.
just thinking about this. So say put yourself in Kim's shoes and you're in the off season. Say we go like 1-3, whatever. What are you doing to make the team better in the off season?
Oh yeah, I asked that question, but I don't think I think we got off track. So Mac, I think Mac answered that. You said what, culture shift, right? Wasn't that?
I was talking generally about the culture, not necessarily about like changes to make.
Yeah,
Okay.
just like changes, like what positions bring in.
Yeah.
Need to add.
No, that's a good question. That's a good question. Mac, why don't you start? Because I think my dog's about to go crazy. So.
All right. And we're filming on Ween Wednesday. I think the most blaring hole that needs to be filled is, there's probably 1A, 1B. I'd say a true point guard, particularly one who can defend, but just one who can competently run the offense and not turn the ball over. That'll take Jaden Pierre off the ball. We all know he can score, he can get hot, but does not belong having the ball in his hands for the first, 8 to 10 seconds of the shot clock. I think a point guard who can take care of the ball and defend, and then big man, I would much rather prefer someone who's like a traditional low post scorer, because as good as Oswin has been in flashes this year and as athletic as he is, we have zero inside threat unless he can come off a pick and roll and he's a lob threat. I think floor general point guard, low post scoring big. I think those are the two biggest issues you need to address this offseason.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. I definitely think that first and foremost, your first job as Kim English is to figure out what you have with Bryce Hopkins, if he's going to play for you or not. If he says no, then you need to dump a boatload of money on pretty much a star, someone who can be your go-to guy, not, like these nickel and dime transfers. That's order number one. Order number two would be to get, a true point guard. Like they need a true point guard, like a floor general, ball handler, like, Al Durham, Vincent Council, like someone who can be a point guard, not necessarily starting, but at least off the bench. If Jaden Pierre is coming back, then you need another guard. Another kind of combo guard, like Bensley would be good, something along those lines. Or if you get that true point guard and he's good enough, then there's your answer there. But you still need at least two guards. You lose Benz, and we've seen that Jaden Pierre just really can't be trusted as a full-time point guard. So, and then I think you need another big man, obviously, a backup center to Oswin.
I think the addressing the Bryce situation is obviously the biggest point of emphasis, because I think the roster construction this year, at least from like a wing perspective, made a lot of sense, because we talk about how the offense is just threes or layups. And guys like Rich Barron, guys like Jabri, guys like Justin Fernandez can't really get their shot going without a star like Bryce Hopkins kind of drawing that defensive attention and generating those open looks. And, when you just throw shooters out there with no plan, like you get what we've seen this year. I think there needs to be a true star that like coaches game plan for. And then if you need to bail out to a Rich Barron or a Justin Fernandez, that's when they start to flourish in their roles.
Definitely, yeah. They might have some good role players next year. You know, who knows?
Eduardo, what about you? What would you do first in your first day as Kim English?
Basically what all you guys said. But the one thing that I would add to that is just looking at the guard size we have right now. We started 4 guys, 6'4" and smaller. So just getting taller guards, I think, is a big thing for me because we just get bullied by some teams. Like the Georgetown game, they oversized the hell out of us. So just getting more size there.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think if you take like what Eduardo just said, like he wants a big guard, and I mentioned a guard who can, hold on to the ball, but like also play defense. Like realistically, if you can get a Garway Dual who's remotely close to an offensive threat, like I think that's a good problem to have. He's not going to be like all Big East necessarily, but like a big-bodied guard who can defend, not turn the ball over, and like defenses can actually give some sort of attention to. If Garway Dual was a shot-making threat, he would be a stud for the Friars.
Yeah.
So a guard like that, I think, that prototype.
Definitely. Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting offseason. I mean, just figuring out who's staying and who's going to leave is interesting in itself. And I know we talked a little bit about that in the past, very recently. There's always going to be rumors, but money talks nowadays, and money and playing time. I think that there's a lot of things that these kids care about. I think those are the 2 things that they probably care about the most.
What rumors?
What are the rumors? What are the rumors?
Very well said.
You guys good or what?
Yeah, I think that just about does it. I think I've complained enough personally. So
yeah, just under an hour. That's pretty good. We thought it was going to be like we didn't have anything, but we ended up talking a lot. So
shout out.
I talked way too much.
No, that's perfect. We needed it. Needed a guy to come off the bench tonight.
Third man of the year.
Find him style, baby.
All right. We good?
Sure, yes, sir. Let's end the season. Let's have a decent time ending the season. Like I had a realization the other day that there's only 2 more home games this year. UConn on Saturday and DePaul next week.
Senior night Saturday, right?
Yep. Senior night Saturday.
I think it's going to be interesting who they honor, because I know there's been talks about people getting 5th years, which may or not be true, but
yeah, it'll be interesting.
Still would get on.
It'll be interesting to see who gets on the T-shirt. But yeah, there's only two more home games to go the rest of the year, and I know, at least for myself, maybe this will resonate with other people, but I know 4 or 5 months from now, it's going to be like the middle of the summer, and I'm going to be like, damn, I really wish I was at the dunk right now. I really wish, a ranked team was coming in on a Tuesday night, and like I was on my way to Providence getting ready for that. So got us as bad as the season's gone. Got to soak in the games while you still can.
No, I agree. Well said. Well said. Well, it's going to be a great Saturday. UConn coming in could be a lot worse, right? Hopefully the weather's nice. So, yeah. Also, Mac, we had a birthday, so happy birthday.
Thank you. I think by the next time we come out with an episode, we're going to have another birthday. So happy birthday to you, Leb.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Um,
Yeah. Well,
And then one more question before we go, and I think this is
yeah.
the only reason everyone's tuning into this episode. The $1 million question. We can end it after this. Saturday at the Dunk Club. Who will you be rooting for?
I mean, at this point, if Mark D'Amelio throws me a bag, I might switch.
God damn it!
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, I'm go Friars, man. You know, I listen. My UConn Huskies had a big win tonight over the Georgetown Hoyas, so shout out to them. But dude, I root for UConn when they play Georgetown. I don't care what anyone says. It's a more prevalent rivalry, and they're more on our level too. Like, you know, like also I'm really just starting to despise St. John's, even though like, you know, they're having a great year. We're having a terrible one, so it's not like I feel like they're proximity rival. It feels more like proximity standings wise. It's like their fans are just fucking dude. Your fans are dreadful. Like they're unbelievable. They literally think they're like every St. John's win. They're like they all cure cancer. It's insane.
I feel like we got to root for them because of Pitino. Now he brought us to Final Four.
Right. I love Rick Pitino too, which sucks because fuck.
Mm-hmm. But as long as you're on the good guys' side, you're on the right side of history on Saturday. That's all that matters.
Of course. All right. Well, I think we're good, right? Who's up?
Sure, yes, sir.
Lebanon. Edibles are starting to hit, so it's a good time to log off.
Shout out Q's big win against NC State. Let's go.
Wow, let's go, yo. Who cares?